Confirm me, guys, once you can see my screen.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the confirmation. So today we are talking about the API automation. As I mentioned yesterday, right? Initially we missed out to start with the API, and then we started with the exception handling. So today will be focusing more on the API automation. And when it comes to the API automation, so what is API? So in terms of when we call about the short forms, right, we will be talking about the extension or long forms of it, right, abbreviations of it. Application, programming, interface. So API is the full form of API is application programming interface. And let us understand why we require APIs and why we will be working with APIs and all. So first, let us understand the application architecture. Whenever you have an application, especially in terms of web-based applications, right? So let us have this. We'll be having and this is going to be your front end, which is like you'll be accessing through browser, and you'll be having database, and you'll be having all this under one, which is server. You'll be having logic, the main core functionality, whatever we are defining, right? If you see, when you are accessing to any web applications, you will be accessing with the help of URL, right? So for each and every action we want to perform, you'll have a URL for that. If you navigate to any applications or when you are working in any websites, right, each and every functionality will have a different URL. Like the base URL will be common, but the rest of the extension we will be having the endpoints, right? That we have the URLs for each of the web applications. So here the APIs will also work in a similar way. API will have an endpoint. The same URL, we call it as an endpoint. So like directly, even here also, from the web application to the server, it will make an API call, and whatever the response it gets, it will display on your website. So even behind the screens, between this web application and server also, will have this API hole, right? And what are the different types of APIs we have? Types of APIs: REST, SOAP, Graph. These are the different types of APIs. Okay. And here in UiPath, we will be dealing more with the REST APIs because SOAP previously it was supported, but as of now, it is not directly supported. It is we need to look for a workaround in order to implement the SOAP. And it is very complex when we are working with the SOAP. And nowadays, we have very limited applications. In modern applications, whatever we have is REST APIs only. And the graph is when we are working with Microsoft Office products or Google products. So in that scenarios, we will be having a graph, but we will not be covering that as well. And this is something related to Microsoft Graph API. Okay. And here we will be dealing with only REST APIs as part of our sessions. And because majority of the applications are working with the REST APIs only. Okay. And what are the different authentication types we have? So we have seen that different types of APIs, right? And let us understand the authentication. What do you mean? What do you mean by authentication? See, even if you want to access the Amazon, right, you need to log into your application. Like you need to provide the username and password. In the similar way, we will be having authentication. We need to authenticate in order to get the response from the APIs. Whenever we want to make an API calls, we need to have an authentication. Uh, it depends on the target application. Like we will be having the API documentation available. So there it will be mentioned what type of authentication it is having. So what are the different authentication methods? There will not be any authentication, no authentication. There will be some applications which authentication might not be required. And we'll be having basic authentication. Right? Basic authentication can be username, password, or API key. So how to get this API key? We'll be having the documentation on the application, API documentation, like with which application we are interacting with. So it's not related to UiPath. You need to get the application API key from that application documentation, not from UiPath side. And you'll be having OAuth. Okay, and when you come to the Google or Microsoft or Salesforce, these type of applications, it will be OAuth. It is much more secure compared to the basic authentication. So these are the different authentication methods we have. Okay, and what are the types of API methods? So we have seen that API types of APIs and authentication methods as well. And let us understand API request methods. So what are the different methods we have? Get, post, put, delete. We have a few more, but most commonly, like we will be dealing with this. And in majority of the cases, you'll be dealing with get and post. In my experience, I never worked on like any other methods than these two methods, because these two are most commonly used methods. Like get method is to get the data. Post method is to create or post the data to the application. Put is to update. This is to delete from the server. So whatever the API is getting exposed to the server, we can perform these actions. We have more as well. Like we will see, like you'll be having patch and a few more as well. But the get and post are much more important when we are dealing with the APIs. Even in interviews also, you can simply say that like I worked on API automation, but I worked only with the get and post methods. I never came across the other methods utilizations, because in none of the API automations, we will work with any other methods other than the get and post methods. So we talked about the API methods as well. And let us understand when you are working with get method, right? You'll get a data, right? You'll be getting response and response code as well. So we will be having multiple response codes, right? 200 is going to be your success. It is not only in get method. This response and response codes are common for any methods. 200 is successful. The authentication and even the for action or whatever the request you have made is successful. 400 series, whatever you are getting is error. 403 is forbidden, or 401, like we will be having multiple codes. So other than 200, whatever the response code you are getting is considered to be unsuccessful API request. Okay. And the response whatever the response we are going to get is in the form of JSON string. Okay. And what is JSON? See, it is a string format. Whatever the text you are getting is a string, but it is in the format of JSON. So how the JSON looks like? Details, name, attribute, city, Hyderabad. It will be in this format. So how can we access any value? Like, let us suppose if this is my format and I want to get the name. So I need to get based on this because this is going to be your fixed structure and this is the variable, right? This is going to be your variable and this is a fixed. So this is going to be our JSON format schema, right? Now let us understand how we are going to have it, and we will see that in UiPath Studio, how we can do that. And while I'm opening UiPath Studio, meanwhile, if you have any queries, like let me know. Do anyone have any questions? There is a break. Your voice is breaking. Okay. So I'm just going with API automation. Okay. So now we need to use the what activity do we have? We have a HTTP request activity in order to do our automations. So let me come here, confirm this very well. Okay, and for now, for learning purpose, I am using this restrect.in. So I can just put this on this notes as well. And we have the list of users. We need to use the get request in order to get this. And we will be getting in this format, right? See, the response code is 200, which means like it's successful, and we will get in this format. So how do we access? Like I want to access the emails or a first name. So I want to access these values, right? So let us see how we can do this. HTTP request. So here is HTTP request. We can directly click on this because it is not installed. Automatically, it will get installed. This package needs to be installed. So you need to have this UiPath.WebAPI.activities in order to access the or work with API automation or even with the JSON formats. So now I can take this activity. And here we need to provide the authentication method. Here we doesn't have any authentication, right? And we want to perform the get. Okay. And what is the endpoint? Endpoint is going to be my URL plus whatever is mentioned here. I go here, I can get this. So I'll be getting all the users from page 2. I can just copy this. And this is how I'm going to get it. So I'll put this URL. Just done. And it doesn't require any authentication. So no problem. And we need to get the response status and response content, right? So let me response status and response content, right? So do we have anything? In case if we require authentication, right? Here we will be passing on username and password. Okay. And we have authentication method to define. In case if it is OAuth, here we will be giving the OAuth details, consumer key, customer secret, and all these details will be mentioning it here. Okay. And what are the different methods we have? Post, put, head, options, patch, merge. So all these are not required. And let us focus only on the get and post requests. Okay. And let me see what response I'm getting from here. Log message. I'll print the response code. Guys, someone is making noise. Can you please go on mute? And here we will be having response content. Okay, let us run and see. This is going to be my status. Fine. What are the type of this? Print32. Okay, fine. I'll just convert to dot to string.
Could you please increase the font size or else the designer font?
Yeah, sure. So what I have done is I have taken the output and now I'm just printing the response status and response content. Let me run the flow. If I come to the output panel, here status is 200, which means my request is successful. And this is my content. So let us understand how we can work with this content in order to get all the names or emails. Okay. So I'll just have a new sequence. I have taken a new sequence. And this is the text, right? What we got is copy. And here I'm just keeping it in an assign activity to a variable. So not accepting. Okay. It's very hard. What I will do is I'll take this into Notepad first. And I'll replace single colon with double colons. Copy this. So I'm just taking this into, just give me a moment, guys. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So I'm creating an argument in underscore response. And this is going to be my response, like whatever we have seen when it was printed in the previous execution, right? The same content we have taken, though we taken from the website. Okay. Now what we want to get. So if we see this in proper way, in a proper JSON structure, right? Let us assume that I want to get all the email addresses, right? So in order to get the values out of string manipulations, and these will not work out for us. So what we need to do is we need to deserialize this text. Whatever the text we got, we need to deserialize that, and we need to provide that JSON string format value, whatever we have, and it will return us as a JSON object from on top of which we can do the manipulations. JSON response object. So we got the object, and now let us see how we can get the values. See, if you give the space as a key, and it will return you the value too. So now we have the struct array here, right? We need to take the data, right? Let me take the data and here it is a JSON array, right? Because why I'm saying array here, if you see, right, there is a bracket and you have multiple values inside of it. So each one is a JSON object and it is a collection. So which means JSON array. Whatever the values we have inside of our data is JSON array, right? We can simply directly use for each here instead of going right, because for each value, and we can simply JSON object and inside of that data. And let us write a log message to see what actually we are getting. See here, my first item, I would able to get. Second item, everything is separated out, right? Now I want to get the email from this. Can I directly get the email by putting in this way? Email. Because it's a JSON array, this is a JSON object. Let me run this. See here, I could able to get all the emails. Now, what we will do is here, I'll just simply invoke this option. And I'll pass this argument as a response content. So whatever the content we got, it will be written. Run the file. The output, yes. Now I could able to get this values. So this is all about the API automation. And we can deserialize the JSON object, whatever the response we got, and we can put that here. And let me do one more thing. I'll have a Swagger file. Let us search for an open Swagger file. Swagger pet store or something. We come here. See, Swagger is also one of the documentation type where we will get these values. Okay. We go here. So this is all about the documentation, right? So, like making the HTTP request call to all, like all these APIs and all these things, studying the documentation is a bit hard, right? So even I do agree with that. So what I will do is I'll go to the UiPath Studio. I'll just create a library. I'll keep it as a blank line. See here in project, we doesn't have, but if I come to the library, right, I have one option, one additional option. New service. Here I can just put that whatever the Swagger UI documentation JSON we have, right? And simply just put that. and I can click on load. So that's true. And I got all these endpoints available. So let me click on save. If you see here, I'll change. I'll change to category and I'll remove this package. And if you see here, somewhere I'll see this Swagger pet store. Here it is. And if I expand, right, I can simply add the values. Like how it looks like is, so we just need to fill out all these details and we just need to pass on our variables and what we want to perform, right? Instead of making HTTP calls, it can be a drag and drop with the APIs. And not only with this, you can even do with the Postman collection also. Let me try to do something with the Postman collection. Let me see if I have any Postman collections on Google available. See, Postman collection, Postman or Swagger APIs, right? These are used for testing of our APIs. Okay. We will not be working much, but generally we will do our testing in this, and then we will come to this UiPath before implementation generally. Examples. I'm not getting it, but in the similar way, we can do that here also. By adding that new one also, like it will give you another here. So we can do that in this way. We can easily do all these API automations with the help of this service concept. Yeah, in terms of APIs, these are the different types of APIs, and we have seen on sample as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know. We are open for the questions now. Yeah, old recorded videos we have on our Hyperautomation YouTube channel. So you can go and check out those videos. I'm just providing the link here. You can get this from here. So any more questions, guys? Could you please explain using post method? Okay, let us do it in this way, guys. You try out the post method, and even tomorrow or day after tomorrow also, I'm going to take the sessions. So in case if you could not able to, right? If you could not able to make post calls, let me know what you tried and I'll explain. Okay. Post methods you try from yourself, and if you could not able to make it out, you reach out to me tomorrow in tomorrow's session. Then I'll explain it. Hope that should be good, right, Suresh? Yeah, uploaded, but no call. See, regarding calls, right? I cannot be much more sure about it, but you will get a calls. But just make sure that you have a proper